anyone who had no dreams? Who had no aspiration? They didn't want to do anything, didn't want to go anywhere, didn't want to accomplish nothing. If you have, let me caution you, don't judge them too harshly. Because they really don't want to be that way. They really do not want to not have dreams and aspirations. They just ran into too many monsters. They were cut and hung and burned so many times until they said to themselves, I'm just not going to dream anymore. And another thing, have you noticed that our children while in kindergarten love school? Anybody notice that? Kindergartners can't wait to get to school. While you're getting dressed, trying to get ready to take them to school, they run around, hit me up, I can't be late. When they come home, they do their homework. They love their teachers. They'll take their teacher apples and gifts. Why? Because they love school. But by the time they get to the 3rd or the 4th grade, they can't stand school. They hate it. Talk about, Mama, I just don't want to go. They won't do their homework. They can't stand the teacher. And it doesn't get any better either. You would think that time would help that, but it doesn't get any better. Because by the time that they're in the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, they're getting into trouble. And if they did take an apple to the teacher, it would be a rotten apple. And it leaves us parents wondering what happened from kindergarten to the 7th grade. Well, let me tell you what happened. They ran into so many monsters, telling them what they can't do, and what they can't have, and what can't be done. They got tired of being cut and hung and burned, so they decided, I just won't dream about school. Oh, y'all not going to work with me anymore. I'm preaching to somebody up here this morning. You used to have dreams, but you don't dream anymore. You used to have aspirations. You used to talk about what you were going to do and where you were going to go and what you were going to be and what you were going to accomplish. You were going to be on the top and not the bottom, the head and not the tail, before and not after. But along the way, you got tired of monsters showing up and cutting you and burning you and hanging you up. And that's why the Lord sent me to ATC. He sent me to tell you what to do when your dreams become nightmares. Oh, that's good all by itself. Yeah. What do you do when life robs you of your dreams? What do you do when on a daily basis you're being ambushed and waylaid and being taken by surprise at every turn? What do you do when your dreams become a nightmare? That's what I read into your hearing this morning. The story of Joseph is the story of a teenager whose dreams became a nightmare. In our text, Joseph is 17 years old. And at 17, Joseph has big dreams. Now, mind you, he's 17. And at 17, Joseph doesn't have anything. He hasn't accomplished anything. As a matter of fact, he's still living in his father's house. At 17, he has nothing. But Joseph has one thing. He has big dreams. And in Joseph's dream, he sees himself beyond where he is. Why? Because that's what dreams are all about. Dreaming is about seeing yourself beyond where you are. And it's hard to see yourself beyond where you are because you are where you are. Understand? And the inability of people to see themselves beyond where they are causes them to become stagnant and stale, moving in a circle, in a perpetual motion, going nowhere, kicking up a lot of dust. in the same place. But in this text, Joseph teaches us that in order to move beyond where you are, you got to visualize yourself beyond where you are. In other words, you got to be able to see it before you see it if you're ever going to see it. You have to visualize it before you can realize it. Let me see if I can help you, but y'all still looking at me kind of funny. Let me work a little bit. Somebody say work, preacher.
Work, preacher.
Tiger Woods had to visualize winning the Masters before he walked on the first tee box at the Augusta National. LeBron James had already visualized winning the NBA title. That's why he left Cleveland in the first place. Serena Williams had verbalized winning Wimbledon before she landed in London, England. Why? Because you have to see it before you see it, because if you don't see it before you see it, you will never see it. Tell somebody, say you got to see it before you see it. You have to see yourself beyond where you are, or you will always be where you are. You have to see yourself in prosperity even when you're in poverty. You have to see yourself owning a house while you're standing in the line waiting to take your rent. You got to see yourself as the CEO while you're in the mailroom sorting mail. You have to see yourself owning your own house while owning your own company while you're working at somebody else's company. You have to see yourself in a healthy relationship even though you're in a jacked up relationship right now. You got to see it before you see it if you're ever going to see it. Somebody tell somebody, say you got to see it before you see it. You have to visualize it. You have to visualize it before you can realize it, because God will show it to you before he gives it to you.
All right.
Oh, I know I'm right about it. That's what God did with Joseph in this text. He said, boy, first I'm going to show it to you, then I'm going to give it to you later on. One of the questions that I'm often asked is, what do you think about prosperity gospel? Do you believe in prosperity gospel? And my response is this. I believe that the gospel is the good news of God's love for us. I believe that the gospel is the good news of salvation that comes from the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus the Christ. I believe that the gospel is the good news of Jesus dying on the cross and being raised from the dead for our salvation. That's what I believe about the gospel. That's what I tell folks when they ask me, do I believe in prosperity gospel? Then I ask them a question. And the question is, are you asking me if I believe that God will prosper you? Because that's really the question that they're asking. Then I tell them, I would be a hypocrite if I tell you that I don't believe that God will prosper you. I'd be a hypocrite because everything I have, God gave it to me. Everything I know, God taught me. Everything I have came from the Lord. Everywhere I come from, the Lord brought me. Everywhere I'm going, the Lord's going to take me. Yes, I believe that God will prosper you. And always after that exchange, that precipitates another question that's coming. Reverend Speaker, do you believe in name it and claim it? Now I know I'm going to mess some of you all's theology up with this. I believe you can name it and claim it, but. Somebody say but. Because there is a but. But you can only name and claim what God has promised you. The problem is you have folk running around naming and claiming stuff that God didn't tell them that they could have. Running around naming and claiming business that God ain't told you that he's going to give you no business. You see, if God ain't promised it to you, you can name it and claim it, but you can't obtain it. what I'm trying to get you to see is if God promised it to you, if he showed it to you, you can name it, claim it, obtain it, and claim it. What happened is up in this house? Somebody who knows that God will do it for you. Can I tell you? Joseph is able to dream even in the midst of dysfunction. Some people do not or have refused to dream because they're surrounded by dysfunction. This is what they say. Pastor, I got so much stuff going on. There's so much dysfunction in my life. I got a dysfunctional family. All my friends are dysfunctional. I'm in a dysfunctional relationship. My church is dysfunctional. My job is dysfunctional. My finances are dysfunctional. And preacher, to tell you the truth, I'm dysfunctional. And all of this dysfunction is not my fault, but it's holding me back. Well, this text is taken to teach us that you can dream even in the midst of dysfunction. Oh, I know I'm right about it. Because Joseph was surrounded with dysfunction. Look at it now. All of Joseph's relatives were hating on him. His thug brothers schemed against him and manipulated his dad. But in the midst of that environment, Joseph still had a dream. Look at Joseph's dysfunctional family. Joseph was in a family that played favoritism. They would give something to one child that they wouldn't give to the other. But in the midst of the dysfunction, Joseph had a dream.